Welcome to the Community ROI podcast. Here, senior community experts, founders, and C-level managers tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about how a community impacts business growth. By listening to these conversations, you'll get actionable steps on how to connect community goals with business goals to skyrocket business growth while still bringing extreme value to community members. My name is Yurii. I help people and brands shine through communities and personal connections. And my guest is Céline Riemenschneider, a marketing and community consultant and strategist who turns engagement into real business impact, former community leader at Canva and Yelp, a winner of a CMX Community Leader Award, and the founder and the head of community at the Chefs Community. So, welcome, Céline.
Hello, hi, welcome. Thank you for the nice introduction.
It's been some time since we had the last conversation of community life. It's totally different type of conversation, but I feel like you are an amazing human to talk to and you are an amazing expert, and I'm happy that we are here. Let's have fun.
Yes, let's do it. I'm flattered.
So let's start with the easiest question. What's your definition of a community for business?
Well, I think this really needs to be defined because there seems to be lots of different definitions out there lately, right? But I think in general, it's like a business community is really about a group of people that are connected by, a shared identity or values or like a challenge that they're trying to solve this and are gathering in a designated space for it. Given by the company, by the business, of course. And it is not an audience because I think this is out there a lot. And please do not mistake it by an audience. It's a place to really help facilitate conversations and give people a space to talk with each other and, a safe space for them to have these conversations instead of having like a one-sided monologue and people being able to just like what you say or comment on it.
And what's your definition of a community goal?
A community goal is really, something that you have to craft, which aligns along with your business goals that you set out when you actually started this community, of course, So you can't just blindly go ahead and think, okay, everybody's doing community, I'm gonna, create a community too, but then you have no idea about it. So I always say it should be really clear the value proposition your community gives to people. So what do the people get when they join a community? But also, what do you want to achieve from it? So like, do you want to get user advocacy from it? Do you want to have kind of like listening to members and being able to, get feedback on your products and kind of grow from there? Or if it's like user-generated communities exist a lot as well, right? So where the main goal, for example, Yelp, I worked there, it was my first community experience in school, I always say, because it taught me so much. And I think their main goal was, of course, advocacy too, but user-generated content, because Yelp is a platform that exists on users' reviews and it wouldn't exist without them. So it's about creating a space for them to be able to do that, but to also give them unique experiences that tie them together around their brand to kind of, advocate for it and enjoy it.
I feel like some businesses are forgetting exactly two things that you mentioned: business goals and value. Sometimes they think that we need to build community and then magically we'll have all the customers in the world and we'll have all the revenue in the world, but it's never worked like that. You always have to add on community, not to start with community. Usually, of course, there are community-led businesses, but it's like a totally different journey. And I'm curious, from your perspective, from your experience, what is one goal of the community you're working with at the moment or worked ever before that inspires you the most?
I've seen so many different things, in different types of communities, of course, but I do think it was very valuable to work with creators in my last role, just because it is such a different bunch of people. And so the business goal tied to that was, of course, in that use case, that they create templates, right? And they're creators and the designers, so they're, as the name says it too, they're very creative people. And being able to guide them kind of on this journey, I think was very unique, and to see what comes out of it. Like, how much can they create without you telling them? Because it's not that they're employing them and you're telling them you have to make 1,000 templates. It's more like, this is what we give you. We give you all the workshops, education, the space, the, engagement, the challenges, and then to kind of see the outcome from it, like how much will they give back for our output. Um, and I found that very rewarding to kind of work with them. It's a very different set of people, I think, than other communities. They're creative, they're inspiring, and to see the work they put out every day with all of them having really unique designs was just quite rewarding, I have to say.
How do you inspire people to create something for your product kind of for free? Like what some specific actions or steps did you take to reach that goal?
I think you need to kind of understand their pain points and give them kind of value in the sense where you see, okay, if there's timely things, there's seasonal things or themes. We gave them, for example, and I think this is very important too, like insights and knowledge to like performance wise, because they want to see what they create and what will perform well, of course, with users. So giving them that kind of input to say, hey, this is what users are looking for. This is the kind of insights we can share with you. And you make out of it what you wish, because it's not a must, but this is a guidance to show you this will be great. It could perform better than other things that you might want to do. Um, but you are, of course, free to do something else as well. And of course, most people took this. If you're smart, I think you do, because you're actually getting, golden nuggets of wisdom in that sense. And I think that really helps, so to kind of challenge them, see what kind of trends there are out there, what's trending out in the world, and to try to inspire them in that way was just the best way to make this happen.
How to ensure that you are not make people feel used by the company, but kind of like feel guided and inspired so they want to continue creating. You know what I mean? Like this, like how to make this difference, you know?
That's wow. Okay. That's a good one. Um, I think it's a little bit of 50-50. Some of it will be very business heavy, messaging and things that need to align with the business goals, of course, as well. But there has to be like a 50% of it where it does, I think, weigh more heavily on what the community gets out of it, in that sense, where it is whether it's to inspire them, whether it's to give them insights, or whether it is to kind of shine a spotlight on them, or whatever you can do to kind of fill their bucket. Because when their buckets are filled and they're happy in the space that they are, chances are a lot less for them to actually, try to leave or to become a lurker again, or, inactive, because then they will actually enjoy being in the space you provided for them. So I think the balance between that of, business heavy, this is what we need from you, and hey, this is what we can give you to make you stay happy, is kind of the key in that balance.
It sounds like you kind of managed to somehow answer the question for them, what's in it for me?
Yeah, a little bit. I hope so.
How do you do that? Like, how do you answer someone else's question, even if sometimes you might not know what's exactly in it for them?
Well, I think it takes time and knowledge and just kind of empathy. I had the great empathy framework I talked about as well, but I think just kind of what I learned when growing communities at the beginning and stuff as well. And this is kind of what I tell people when I'm consulting as well, is especially if you're starting off more new, let's say you don't have 10,000 members or so yet, because then it's really hard, I think, to do this. But to have one-on-ones, to have office hours, and to kind of hear people out, back in the day, if we had offline meetups, and now of course a lot more has shifted to online. But in the offline world, I would do just like coffee meetups, or just to have like dinners together, like, people in the community, hey, who's here next Tuesday? We're meeting up here. And then you really hear the real conversations, because then you're not going to sit there for 2 hours and just talk about business, right? You talk about other things in life as well. And I think then you have really a feeling for what those people kind of need, what they're looking for. But same in the online model too. I noticed that when I started having, for example, office hours, let's say, or, one-on-ones, people open up, people talk about, why they love something, what they don't like. People are very quick to then also share with you, I feel, what they don't like or what should change. And now this is like not working really well. I think we should be doing this. So then I'm like, okay, cool. So you want to do this? Maybe you want to help me, get that started, or, we can talk to other members. So I feel sometimes it naturally guides the conversation there as well once you open up a space for the people to talk to you one-on-one.
To your point, sometimes I feel like the best connections I've ever had, and I'm not talking just about personal connection, but even business connections, started always with talking about some human parts, talking about kids, hobbies, animals, you name it. And then you like talk 50 minutes about this, and like 5 last minutes you talk about business, and you're like, yeah, we clicked. Let's work it. Let's do it. So it's
That's
like,
so true.
I don't know how it works. Also, you mentioned empathy framework. So tell me more about that.
The empathy framework. Well, I kind of set this up. Actually, don't make me recite each and every single letter now, please. That will take some time. But basically, it was at a time where in the community, I had a member who was actually struggling with something. And support didn't give the support they were supposed to, funny enough. And I felt that they struggled a lot, and the company didn't really want to hear their side of things. And if it was just up to support, I think they might have actually left the community and we would have lost a member, right? And you could look at it as, okay, we have so many other members. Why do we sweat about just one, right? But it is that one that does make the difference too. Yes, there is sometimes, as bad as that, lurkers sometimes who haven't ever been active and stuff. And if they don't participate and they leave, it might not make as much of a difference. But if it's somebody who has been really active and really highly contributing, I'm sure you know how it is too, and that person decides to leave, it does create also chaos in the community, because then it's like, why did we let her go? So to me, this became like this really passion to make sure that, she stays. And, there was a lot of talking back and forth with support with the company and everything, just to make sure her side of the story is heard. And in the end, it was something that doesn't happen very often, but she did stay. And she said, thanks to me, because I put so much effort and work into making sure that she does stay. And, she still is part of the community. I'm not anymore. But from there, I thought like, okay, what is the one factor that community managers really have with their members that makes a difference? And that was, to me, empathy, because it's to not just be like, oh, it's a member, but to take that as a human connection, and that they do bring value into the rest of the community, not just to me as a business goal. They also contribute to our business goal really, really heavily, but they contribute to the community. All the other members really love this person too, and it is a core member. And if you lose that core member, things might start to crumble. So from there on, I was like, yeah, empathy. And then like, let's create a framework around this about empathy, and where, each letter like EMPATHY means something else that, brings together a community that's really important for your community to succeed. And that's kind of how my framework was built.
It's very important that you mentioned that sometimes just one single person can make a huge difference. And once again, of course, if it's not someone you've never heard about, but if some person is active in your community and randomly they like go radio silent, it's kind of weird, and also sends a weird signal to people who got used to, even to those lurkers, because they are lurking because of such people are creating something for them, and they're also consuming this, and they will definitely notice. And like I literally have this experience with this Diary of a CEO community, because the funny story is that like 3 months before they created a community, I had this thought in my mind: they need to create a community. So when I heard about it, I was like one of the first people to join it. I was like, I'm totally in. They have amazing podcast. I will be like their ambassador. I will tell everyone about this community. And like as the time went, I was like, yeah, it's just another social media channel. I'm out of here. So, and I was rather active there, and people noticed, I had some people connected with me on LinkedIn afterwards and thought, hey, I saw your activity on like in the Diary of a CEO community. Let's connect. And some
Yeah.
people even messaged me like, oh, I didn't see you for some time. What happened? So it's not just
That's good.
random
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah,
It's a reality. People are
it
reaching
is.
out to those people afterwards and asking like, what happens? And if this person is unhappy about your community, trust me, they will make your community fall down. And the more people like that, it will just suck. So I
It
totally
will.
get what you're talking about. And it's super, super important that you brought it up. So thank you so much for doing
Yes.
this.
Thank
So
you for understanding.
okay, coming like if we are focused on this internal collaboration, it's always like external part, talking to people and working internally. So what three teams do you usually work the most with while building a community?
Um, I think, well, it depends on the structure of how things are, but definitely marketing in the sense of growth and social is, I think, like number one, kind of. It is always tied to marketing goal somehow as well, right? But I do think there's a lot of product team as well in it to kind of, because community is the forefront in the sense of if there's a new product update or anything new coming that you're, bringing out, that we're going to be the first ones to actually deliver it right straight to the people because we have a community of people who are using the product and they want to first know like what's coming, what's happening. So to kind of work together with product on, is there any updates? Is there any feedback from the community? Can we bring this out to them first before we, launch it publicly and stuff? So I think outside of the core marketing team, it's very important to work together with product as well.
What's the one team that it's not that kind of like well known? For example, marketing, product, sales, people kind of customer success. From your experience, what was one, I don't know, unexpected benefit that community could brought to some team?
Unexpected benefit that the community brought to a team.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh. Um, well, I'm sure if you speak to the salespeople that they have definitely brought in sales, right? I mean, if there's a sales like tied to the community or your product, of course, it kind of differentiates according to every community. But if there's a subscription or if there's a product to be bought, the community it definitely does, I think, shape that, even if it's just through, word of mouth and referral and kind of advocating for the brand. Is in inactively, but actively, they do contribute to the fact that people do purchase the product, or at least, it has more visibility and awareness. So it does tie into that, definitely.
Working with teams is always two-way street. So no matter how hard you try, if you are from community side, just the only one side trying to help them and they do nothing, it won't work. If they just one team who tries to get something from you, it also kind of like, doesn't work. So it's always have to be a collaboration. So I'm curious, how do you encourage people from other teams to work with a community team and without not just adding some more work to their plates?
Okay. So it doesn't matter if it's like product or something, just any other teams. Well, I think when they actually start seeing what community is doing or what they contribute to in the whole business group, I think some teams are very, head down with what they're doing that they actually don't look at it. But I think when you do show it to them, like, hey, they're actually, not just this little group of people like talking online the whole time and they're actually doing this, they're actually doing that, they're contributing or, having, amazing things on socials on top of what they're doing in the community, which, brings back more people to us. Once they see that value, I feel people are more ready to work together with them or do something with them. We had this when we tried to utilize them, for example, from the social campaigns and teams where we thought, hey, can we use some of the community members that are like, the top performers or contributors who would you kind of suggest to be presented on our social channels? So it's a win-win for them as well because they're not they're getting exposure, it's not like they're winning something out of it, but people love extra exposure too, right? So of course, like most members were like, yeah, of course, I'd love to be, represented on your socials or any other way. If you are trying to get more trainings in, for example, and your sales trainings, but sometimes we're like, okay, but look into the community because they do this on a daily basis in their lives as well, or they hold their own workshops and they can maybe give you back some feedback from the people that they talk to, which you might not have heard in sales, that you can take back to your team and then use in your next, calls or pitches that you have with clients. So I think just kind of when you show a little bit of the value, what they can get out of speaking to community or what they do, then it is much more of a no-brainer for them to actually work together.
Its community is always a long-term investment. So it's always long-term ROI. So how do you get leadership on board and invested, taking into account that it's a long-term project?
I think it depends on, since, I'm going into my consulting then, of course, as well, not just the big brands I work together with, because like the big brands is a little different in the sense of they have more disposable money, let's say, right? So it is easier to invest into a long-term project because you can still use, let's say, more cost-effective tools and stuff to kind of, maximize the ROI and not spend too much, because I always say it's not the same as when you do socials. I feel like, for example, teams and socials and influencers, sorry, but they spend so much crazy money. And you don't always have, sorry, an ROI behind it. It's not a given that when you work with somebody and pay them that, you will guaranteed have 1,000 sales afterwards. So the same thing kind of applies to community too. It's a long road, but it's much more cost effective in the sense of, you have a platform, you have a tool. Yes, you have your core team that works together with them. And from there, you can create so much magic with just if they do feel belonging to, your core message, your mission, your company, whatever kind of community it is that you're trying to build around, of course, your product. So that I always say, going from seeing things like this to looking at the wider picture. What, of course, kind of helps is if you do draw a roadmap and, kind of maybe timeline, if it's possible. It might not always fit the timeline. You might not miss some of the goals or timeline milestones and stuff, but to have a general overview of what's expected and when comes what, or what we get out of the community, is usually, I think, helpful. And it is contradictory as this might sound, to give maybe examples of other successful communities, because if a person is not sure in business and they're just starting off, it is important to see like, hey, there's like a lot of people out there that are doing this. It sounds very, logical to me, but to them it might not. And when they actually see it on proof, like on paper, on black and white, they're like, hey, okay, I'm not the only one who's in the space. There's like a lot of people who are doing this. So maybe it is worth, a try and the risk, which I don't think it's risky.
Yeah, it's always like that. And to your point, it's always about like talking and sharing examples more openly, because I always say that two communities will never be the same, even if they are in the same niche and the same space, because it's so much behind the product itself, behind the leadership, behind the community builder in the specific community. It's a lot of human factor involved. And no matter how hard you try, yes, you can try the same things. They might work, they might not. But it's still good to know that what you can try and how to try it, and then you have to try it, because what works for them, it doesn't mean that it will work for you. So it's like very, very tricky thing. And it's always it's always amazing to talk about some good things that happen. It's always amazing to share like beautiful community stories, how it improves someone's life. But it's always not always a bright side. It's always a dark side to a community. So I'm curious, how do you talk about the challenges that you face in the community?
To the outside or to the business?
Internally. To the outside, it's easy. You just tell them, hey, we fucked up. And they ever say, oh yeah, we are here to support you. But even internally to the teams and say stakeholders.
I think still transparency in that sense. I mean, I've had it in most communities where we had such things where there was maybe negative things happening on, I mean, for example, I think in most communities, this sounds really horrible, there's always a troll, right? If you have only one troll, it's really good for you, I always say, because then it's just like just one. But sometimes you have more than one troll, and there's like, and if they notice one person being, trolling and negative, the bigger the community is, I also feel that there's obviously more. Um, and it becomes a bit challenging if you feel for the community manager to sometimes uphold the positive vibe if there's somebody who's trying to like drag you down, or you're trying to pull everybody back up again. And when you talk about this internally in business and stuff, it's interesting to see how people perceive it. But I think what's a bit of a challenge is when you kind of make a mistake as a business, which directly impacts community. And then it's usually the community manager that has to do the cleanup because, we're the voice of the community. We're the ones who has to hear it from the business side and then from the community side. And to kind of, I feel, to really communicate openly to both sides, to go to community and be like, hey, like you said, hey, we fucked up. Like, we acknowledge this, and we're only human too. We made a mistake and we're trying, our best to repair it. I always say, like in my moderation and crisis management and stuff, don't wait, to be like, okay, we have to craft messaging. We have to go to comms and wait for comms to bring out something and to say, it's like, no, like, time is of the essence. If there is a fire, like address it right away. Don't let the fire spread before you start addressing it. And same on the business side, to be like, hey, okay, this is already out, so we can't really dial on this, but maybe next time we think of this in a better light and try to not make this happen, or whatever solution it is, like ABC, next time we should be doing it this way, because then I think there will be not such a big fire to put out. It's all learnings at the end of the day then too, right? You can't always have gold memories and great things happening. There's, of course, going to be fires happening too. Let's just make sure they don't turn into, wildfires and, stay put, and little fires, and that we can hopefully put them out.
You have to have this fire extinguisher prepared somewhere close to yourself, so that just in case you can just put it to use. And like to your point, it's like honesty is like something that we need to have more in the communities. I remember I had once a client who I was talking about communities, that they will talk with you and they will share experiences, and they were like, oh my God, what if they will talk shit about our product? I'm like, yeah, it's okay. It's feedback. That's how you learn. That's how you know what to improve. And if you have a shitty product and you know that you have a shitty product, that's the shittiest part. But if you have like good product and someone is telling you something doesn't work, amazing. It's an opportunity for you to improve it. And if you are afraid that someone will tell you that something doesn't work, it sucks. You have to call shit and be open. And there's also a little bit of vulnerability included. If you are being vulnerable and showing that there is a real human and not just one, there are humans behind the brand, it's so much better than it's just this wall, this corporate wall and nothing else.
Yes, for sure. 100%. I agree.
So what is your ideal community tech stack looks like?
Oh, my tech stack is, I'm such a classic girl in that sense. I mean, it depends which platform the community is hosted in. I am loving Heartbeat a lot lately, which is like, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but it is kind of like a comparison to Circle, but it's quite similar, I feel, in structure and feel and everything. It is more cost effective. Um, and I do like Slack too, just because I feel it's such a everyday thing that you use anyway. There's so many things on it. It's easy to kind of, send messages back and forth, have channels, and now with the files and canvases and everything. I do like it. Of course, there's many other platforms and everything out there. I'm a big Google Workspace girl, outside of it in my tech stack as well, just because it's Google. I mean, we can't argue
It
against
works.
that. Everything works. It's very clean. I designed. I like the UI. It's easy to understand, and use. So, definitely use all of those tools. Of course, I still use Canva on day to day. I mean, you can't do anything without it. I'm not a graphic designer, so if I were, I would be using other tools, maybe not, but definitely for somebody who is not, it saves my everyday life, definitely with clients, but also for my personal work as well. Um, yeah, and of course, then on top of it, AI. We all love AI. I have different things I use for different use cases. We all, of course, love our ChatGPT, but I feel ChatGPT is just like I always say my normal like friend I speak to in a friendly way to kind of go back and forth about ideas. But if I want something a little bit more high level, I do like Gemini more. And then I use sometimes also like an agent tool if I want to do something much more like deep dives and research and more strategic things, then I go into the agent, and that's usually my tech stack at the moment.
Give me some more examples about how do you use AI for some specific community tasks.
Um, I mean, I don't use it in the sense of like bots and stuff right now. I know that other people do, and I think you should, if your community, let's say, is very big in the sense of like you've got thousands of members, it's harder to have personalization in one-on-ones. I definitely think people can put in, like a bot or an agent to kind of help you like support. Um, I like it in the sense of kind of content planning and ideation, and not necessarily like how to answer to community members, but to really be like, um, give me some more, because sometimes you run out of ideas. You've done a lot of things, you've done a lot of different, let's say, icebreakers, conversation starters, engagement challenges, where you kind of go into AI, and then I'm like, hey, I want to craft like a cool challenge in my community, and this my community, like give all the details that you can. Of course, the better your prompt is, as I always say, the better your output is going to be. Don't just have like one sentence, give me a challenge, because then you might get all sorts of things. And then I kind of look, does it make sense for me? Does it not? And then I iterate from there, have a kind of conversation with AI to see like, please go more into detail about this. I like this. I don't like this. What are you talking about? And use it in that format is what I've been doing in the past, I think, year and a half or so. Yeah.
To your point of like talking with ChatGPT and all these agents, I remember like from the programming courses that I took like a long time ago in the university, there was this FIFO, like first in, first out. It's like how you build stack and all the things. And I feel like in AI thing, it's like I call it seesaw, shit in, shit out. So basically,
I love
if
it.
you feed it with shit, yeah, you'll have exactly what you deserve. And
Exactly.
yeah, Celine, I wish to have the sky as a limit, but time is the limit to our conversation. So the final question,
Oh
what
boy.
is one thing to do right away for someone struggling with identifying their community ROI?
Um, I think I mean, the community ROI is probably out there. They just have to dig a little bit deeper into it. It's not always like value driven in the sense of like a dollar value behind it. If you have that, really great. And I've had this I think in the overall work, probably only in one community, I have to say, where you can actually prove like monetary value to it. It doesn't happen very often. So if you do have that, lucky you, because then the business should really understand the ROI. But I think to dig deeper a little bit and to really maybe have somebody else from the outside, I always say when you're too close to something, you might not be able to um, translate it so well, because you're very invested in it and very emotional. But somebody who comes into it maybe and says like, how what do you think is really going on here that's really great, or how did this community help you, like ask your members, for example. And then I think from there you can really see what the ROI is, whether it is about, you see that your members have referred, let's say, 10, 20, 50 other people that have come through your members, and then you see, hey, your community is growing, and through that, of course, you get retention, you get product feedback, you have less churn, and there's so many different ways in the ROI that you can interpret. Or it can just be that you got a lot of product feedback from the people in your community. You have, let's say, a test channel, And your product team was able to take this to heart and actually change things before they did a launch or relaunch or something. So not to always just focus on, the big things in ROI that people expect, but it can be very different things as well.
Yeah, it's like going back to this one active member. I think that it's very similar. You have to
Yeah.
find like one thing, and sometimes this one detail that's exactly what makes your business move forward. And you might not even know this, but then you just remove it, and then you see that everything is falling down. I feel like community is exactly, there is this picture when there is like some kind of things, like some kind of a Tetris thing built, and then there is small stone, and something is like relies on this stone, and there is an arrow and like community. So
Yeah.
sometimes it works that way. So yeah, and last but not least, name two people I should reach out to talk about community ROI.
Oh God, I actually didn't prepare for this one. I I actually was going to check who I said last time. I would say Francisco because he's really great in community, and other than Francisco,
Hmm.
Emily from Remote Daily.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And what is the best way to connect with you?
The best way to connect with me, I think, is definitely LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn, and I'm planning to be much more present there this year.
See you there. There are so many amazing humans, and I already saw you a lot of posts that you are making. So please keep on.
Yeah.
Let's continue this conversation there. And Celine, thank you so much for coming here and talking about this value for members, business goals, empathy framework, and also about this like very important moments that people are forgetting about, like how you have to continue cherishing your members, especially your active members. Why should you care about them and not just, okay, they just can go somewhere else will join. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, and I'm happy to have you as an amazing community friend. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Yuri, for having me, and of course for being my community friend as well.
And yeah, see you in the community world. And thank you so much for listening. If you have any questions about how the community can help you reach and overcome your business goals faster, let's connect on LinkedIn and talk about it. That's it. We're done. See you in the next episode.